Start with you, Michael Agwanda, on the African leaders in China, and let's start with a wider scope of what Africa is bound to gain or lose by their meeting with China. And of course, China has been a huge investor and has had its eye on Africa.
Mike, when you look at number of heads of states in Africa going to China, and you look at their, demeanor and, when taking photos of the president of China, you can see that the last laugh will be China and not the heads of states from African countries. That is so clear. China is luring them to come to their nation, be given a standing ovation recognition as individuals, but not knowing in these countries that China is taking their products, raw materials, into their country. China has a population that China economy itself cannot sustain. In fact, in China itself, we have very poor people in China, other than the big cities that are there and that you're seeing. Remember that China's economy also is actually being boosted by companies that are coming from United States of America. And the more Trump tightens the news, the more China is going to look the other way. And the other way is not free. It is not exchange of manufacturing opportunities. Kenya will never have a company in China to manufacture anything like America is having companies in China leveraging on wage bill. But what they're trying to do in Africa is to befriend Africa. And they're not befriending you so that they can give you goodies like the West sometimes and occasionally will do to this country, but they give you loans. Loans at commercial rate, loans that you'll have to pay, and loans that sometimes you may not be able to pay. And when you refuse to pay, they will come and manage those very institutions that they built in your country. In Kenya, a big example is SGR. The Chinese are managing it. In other countries, they've taken their ports away, and that is their livelihood. What is happening in Kenya today is Kenya is having more debt to pay to China than any other country in the world. The question is, why do they seem to be giving easy money to countries like Kenya? Because of corrupt individuals in a country like this.
That stand to benefit with the short term.
That stands to benefit from this looting that is happening. And China is very strategic. They are aware that there are corrupt individuals in Africa, and they go for them and they give them whatever amount of money they need. And they, it is okay for them to bribe, because they know that the next day that man will not be in the office. Somebody else will be there. And at that particular time, they will not be giving the money, but they will be demanding the money back. Even the money that they've given us for corruption itself will be included in that loan that they are giving you. And so they will never lose. The question that African nations must ask themselves today: is it good to ask for money and borrow money every single day than looking from within and saying, how can we develop our economy without borrowing money? I will conclude by saying this. For 2 to 3 years, retired President Daniel Arap Moi never borrowed a single cent from international community. We survived as a nation. Why must we continue borrowing for SGR when we know that we will not even be able to manage it? When we will have poor, Chinese coming to even sweep the train for us, while we have people that are able to sweep the train so that they can also get an income. Why must we continue spending more on SGR from here to Kisumu than even what we spend from Nairobi to Mombasa? And looking at the distance, Mombasa is longer. The question is, why must we continue enriching the few people in this country through money that is borrowed and it goes into people's pocket in terms of billions, and then we pay for it? I think as a nation, I will really consider that we use our natural resources and not to think of having, for example, our gas, our petrol that is crudely gotten from our land, then it's taken to Mombasa and then we export it as raw material. We used to refine fuel. The question is, where are our priority as a country?
All right. Whether one of the ways the government is trying to fight this is to build the manufacturing industry.
Yes.
And what has made China such a huge force is just their sheer amount of factories and ability to manufacture. Of course, that is boosted by just the sheer numbers.
Yes.
They have quite a huge population that are able to do that, but also they seem to be well skilled in that.
Yes.
Is that a plan that can hopefully help Kenya get out of this rat race where we have to rely either on the West or the East to a point where we can become manufacturers? We are consumers more than producers, yet we have the raw material.
Thank you. I think for me, I view the Kenya-China relationship as something very good. China is also a recent phenomenon. We were with the West for very long, and the West, the IMF, the World Bank, for years, for the last 30 years, the first 30 years, we were leaning to the West, and they would come here and they just thumb and they put conditions, and still we did not grow. China has come in as a business partner. I have money, we have made it, this is the way we have made it, and if you want to grow, we can give it to you. You cannot blame the lender for your own greed and theft. That, oh, because we steal it when you give it to us, you are very bad. That is a wrong notion. They are saying we are in business. You also want to grow. We will avail the following to you, the following money, the following resources, and the following skills. It is us as Kenyans to look inward, turn and stop the theft. China will not stop it for us. China will also not insist on giving us bribes unless we are willing to take it, unless we ask for it. So if we refocus, the relationship is fairly fruitful. Why? They have just grown in the recent. We can learn from them. Secondly, they are willing to bring in their manpower so that we develop. If you look at the railway, the SGR is very good. Is very good, except we chose to add a bit of stealing to it. In their own country, they don't allow stealing. You steal, you die. But they tell us, if you want to steal yours, you have no problem, we'll give it to you because you are sovereign. What does that mean? It is us to say, we also want to do it the way you have done it. Just help us to do it your way, ensure we do it your way, so there will be no theft. Give us the skills. If that was to happen, we will develop because they are willing. America, Britain, they are willing to smear us with a bit of oil, but they don't want to put us into the center. They don't have their manufacturing industries here. They don't have anything. They just want to give us tokenism. Chinese and the Japanese, they are saying we are coming down to improve you. And that's why Africa is leaning. If our leaders, my brother, if our leaders were to do it the way they are doing it, SGR will not be so expensive. Maybe from here to Kisumu, we need that one, but maybe from here to Kisumu, because of the terrain, it is more expensive. And then add that to corruption, it becomes more
too expensive.
All right. We must, as a country, continue going manufacturing.
All right, gentlemen, I'll need your closing comments, but let me start with you, Michael Agonda, and maybe we can also touch on priorities, because we do know, like now, the U.S., the president was in the U.S. not too long ago, and one of the deals that they came up with is building of the road from Mombasa to Nairobi, which, again, the question is priority. Not too long ago, we've just had the SGR done from Mombasa to Nairobi again. We're waiting for the second phase, which is from Naivasha to Kisumu. In terms of priorities, are we investing in the right things? Because according to the government, these are bound to pay off over time.
I don't think. We are, as a country, as a nation, I think our biggest problem is we're investing in the wrong priorities. You've just put 135 billion on SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi. Why do you put more money on that road again while you've not even connected the SGR to Malaba and Tanzania, where basically you're expecting the East African community to ease transportation, and besides that you're leveraging on our port so that we can get income and from this transportation. If you've not done that, then I think that's a wrong priority. Another thing that we have to say as a nation is I think instead of investing on things that we could easily export, we're investing on commodities that basically are putting us into more debts. When I say that, I'm talking about agriculture. We've exported tea, we've exported
Flowers,
coffee and flour for many, many years. The question is, why wouldn't the government invest hugely for us to get foreign income as a result of the commodities and farm products that we've been able to export? And I think that should be the focus, because when you focus on the common Mwananchi who is a farmer out there, then basically what you're saying is we are putting more money into your pocket, but we are also getting huge returns out of it in foreign exchange. When we're talking about issues of farming, even look at sugarcane by itself. We've never been in serious issues with sugarcane until the executive decided, you know what, we're going to kill the farmers, and once we kill the farmers, we'll import sugar and we'll flood this market, and we don't care the quality of that sugar, so long as you bring it. And then suddenly we realize, oh, it's got to be banned somewhere because you imported wrong sugar. The question we are asking is for the government to look inward and see what they can invest in terms of priority. Farming will be number one because it will earn us income. And in the 4 agenda that the president had, beautiful agenda in the big 4, but we forgot farming. And yet that is where every single individual gets into. When we're talking about industry and manufacturing, I agree we need to create jobs in this country. But how do you create jobs when the cost of production in this country is more than you can imagine? Now you've just added fuel another 16%. Let me tell you, that's the cost of production of every manufacturer in this country. When the cost of production is constantly going up, then your priority is not right. We've just seen Parliament say, well, we don't think that every individual in this country has to contribute for the 500,000 plus houses that the government want to build. That was building, housing in this country. That means we do not have resources to meet one of those big fours that I've been talking about, because Parliament has realized you're still going to tax Kenyans more. The question is, why wouldn't we enable people to work and be able to build their own houses instead of taxing every individual? I think priorities in this government is wrong and needs to be reset.
Okay, Ambrose Sweda, you have the last word.
I think as a country, every individual's growth should be based on your strength, not improving your weaknesses, but focusing and working on your strength. As a country, we have rich land, we have good weather, we have all the good things that work for agriculture. Yet today, we import sugar, we import oranges, we import grapes, we import water, we import everything. So that when you say, what is Kenya good for? Even our athletes now are diminishing. I think the focus should be on our strength, then the rest we can import. There's no need struggling to make cars in Thika when we can't grow our own sugar. We get it totally wrong. So this is what I hope our leaders should see. And as we do that, let us also get leaders with a vision. We don't elect them on the basis of party and on the basis of tribe and on the basis of clan. Then when they sit there, then you expect them to work miracles. But we need our agriculture will get people back into jobs. Trying to make cars in Thika, trying to brew beer in Kisumu, that will not be enough.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll have to wind it up right there. Thank you for joining us.